Hey guys, how you doing? So, before we get into this video topic, I want to briefly share with you guys how I got this insane video idea in the first place. So, story time. I'm not exactly the best sleeper out there. I have trouble falling asleep because my mind is pretty active when I'm laying in bed. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, one night a couple of weeks ago, I was dealing with this problem, and then a question popped up in my head that I couldn't seem to figure out. How many Peashooter clones are there in the PvZ games? It seems like such an easy answer if you have the numbers, but after combing through all of the resources, I had to separate this into 3 answers. Not even kidding. I don't want to waste any more time, so let's just get right into things here. Okay, well, we can't just start without setting some ground rules. We need to talk about the criteria. And believe it or not, but there's actually a fine line between Peashooter clone and straight up shooting plants in general. So here's my criteria for this video. If the supposed Peashooter clone has P or shooter somewhere in their name, they look somewhat similar to a Peashooter, and they function somewhat similarly, I will count them. It seems like a no-brainer to some of you, but some Peashooter clones are harder to distinguish than others, like Peanut. I personally believe that this is a Peashooter clone, and that's due to the name and the projectile it fires. Now, as for other Peashooter clones, this is where I'm gonna have to split the answers into 3. Let's talk about why. So my personal answer is the blue number you see here, and this is the one that I personally count as the true amount. But let's just say that you consider plants like Snow Peashooter and Ice Pea to be different somehow. I may not agree, but for those of you who think that, the red number is for you. As for the green number, this is the everything counts route. Basically, if the plant in question is in multiple different genres of the franchise, it counts as different plants in each genre. This is the truly chaotic route, and I don't expect a whole lot of people to agree with it. It's more so just here because, technically, it could count. Finally, we need to talk about the games we're covering here. And yes, I did say games. We're not going over any external material of this franchise, as well as no Chinese games and no unofficial ones. To add on to this, I'm also not going over any cut content, as we could never really have a true answer if we counted that stuff too. No, we're covering purely the PopCap official games and material, and that's it. This video would be a lot bigger if we had to go over some of the external stuff, so we're not doing that. Okay, that's just about everything. Jeez, that is a lot. But now we can finally go over the Peashooter clones, starting with this game was the first in the franchise, so with that being said, I think it's fair to assume that there wouldn't be too many here, right? Kind of. We have Snow Peashooter, Repeater, 3-peater, Split Pea, and Gatling Pea. Only 5 for all 3 totals for now. Yes, we will have to cover this guy later, and I'm putting it off for a reason, but overall this game is relatively simple. So let's continue down the pipeline, moving to this is going to be painful. So let's go in order of plants released. I think that'll just be easier, then we'll review at the end. Ignoring the base few we've covered, we have Peapod, Peanut, Fire Peashooter, Primal Peashooter, Electric Peashooter, Appeasement, Shadow Peashooter, Goo Peashooter, Sling Pea, Snap Pea, Peavine, and Mega Gatling Pea. For my list, I'm counting all of these Peashooter clones except for Mega Gatling, as PvZ1 already has that plant technically. For the red and green rankings, they see the 2 as virtually different plants, so their total is going to be 1 higher than mine. Overall, now we're sitting at 16 for my answer, and 17 for the other 2. Luckily, our next game here is a little kinder to our ranking, and that is yeah, I'm sure quite a few of you forgot this game even existed, and I wouldn't blame you for that. Despite this game only being active for 1 year, we did get some Peashooter clones out of it, those being Beashooter, Sweet Pea, and Ice Queen Pea. For my ranking, I'm counting the first 2 and not Ice Queen Pea, as that's basically Snow Peashooter. So with that being said, my ranking is at 18 while the other 2 sit at 20. They do not judge. So far, so good. But that's about to change heavily, as now we move on to at first glance, this game is relatively simple. We just have variants to look at, right? Well, let's list off what we have to work with here. Ignoring base Peashooter, we have Fire Pea, Ice Pea, Toxic Pea, Commando Pea, Agent Pea, Law Pea, Berry Shooter, and Plasma Pea, right? No, there's more actually. Do you ever use the potted plants? Well, there's quite a few unique pea shooters here too. For these little guys, we have Pea Cannon, Repeater, Gatling P, Ice Peashooter, and Fire Peashooter. Okay, this is where things are gonna get messy. So for my personal ranking, we're adding all variants besides Reg, Fire, and Ice. And as for the spawnable AI, it's just P Cannon, as that's technically different than normal Peashooter. So my total is now at 25. But we're not done yet. The red ranking will count all variants besides Reg, along with P Cannon and Ice Peashooter. For those wondering why Ice Peashooter in particular is counted, it's because the name isn't the same as the Snow Peashooter from the tower defense games, so technically it's unique. We're just gonna ignore Ice P here. Overall, the red total is now at 30. And then there's the green. Remember how I said that this number is the one that's chaotic? Well, what if you viewed this side of the franchise as a completely different entity? Well, then you would see all of these plants as unique Peashooter clones. And if that's the case, then the new total for green is at 33. This is gonna get crazy pretty fast, isn't it? For now, let's just move on to the sequel of this game, that being... Thankfully, this game is the calm before the storm here. So all this game introduces is Electro P and Rock P. For my total, I already counted EP and PvZ2, so it's just going up to 26. As for the other two, they're going up by 2, so that is 32 and 35 respectively. Okay, that wasn't so bad. What's next? Wait, no. Oh no. Would you believe me if I told you that Heroes seriously made me contemplate quitting this project? This game has a lot of Peashooters, so instead of giving an intro here, let's just cover all of them. Here we have Green Shadow, which doesn't have P or Shooter in the name, but she's clearly a Peashooter, so it counts. Peanut, 3-Nut, Repeater, Peapod, Fire Peashooter, Sky Shooter, Sweet Pea, the Podfather, which is the same deal with Green Shadow, Cosmic P, Split P, Gatling P, Primal Peashooter, Snow P, and finally 3-Peater. Now this is a lot, so I'm going to explain why these are Peashooter clones and not stuff like Podfighter. So part of the criteria is that the plants have to look at least similar to a Peashooter, but that doesn't mean that literal pea plants are going to be considered. The only exception is Peanut, and that's only because it shoots actual peas. The name would not have saved it if it didn't do that. So with that being said, my personal total for this game is 5 unique additions, and that puts my total at 31. For the red total, we're also going up 5 here. For the shooter games, similarities between the fire and icy Peashooters there were mostly ignored. But here, these plants were clearly based off of the PvZ2 renditions, so the total won't be going up too much, now sitting at 37. And of course, the green total being the chaotic force it is now sitting at 15 extra, because Heroes is a pretty unique game. So we reach 50 here, and believe me, this is going to be getting more absurd, so keep that in mind. But now we can finally move on from this mess. Let's cover the final game in this video, that being... At first glance, BFN definitely doesn't seem like a game where you'd find Peashooter clones. But with how PopCap treated the outfits in this game, giving them their own unique flavor text in their descriptions and whatnot, there's a certain type of person who would count all of these. So with that being said, the green total is now at 57. Yeah, this number is getting absurd at this point. Hey wait, Xavier, aren't you forgetting a game? I am. What about it? Jokes aside, PvZ3 doesn't bring anything new to the table, so it don't count. Okay, now let's review our answers here. Alright, so my final total was 31, the more generous red total was at 37, and the green one is at 57, or so it would seem. Yeah, there's just one last thing we need to cover here before we get the chaotic answer right, and that's Imitator. Imitator on its own is not a Peashooter clone, but the plants that it can copy? Oh yeah, if you're crazy enough, these absolutely do count for the final ranking. So with all of that being said, let's see how many extra clones we could get here. Technically speaking, Imitated Peashooter itself is not truly Peashooter, so by all accounts, it counts for the green total. Including that in the first game, we now have 5 extra plants from PvZ1. In PvZ2, we've got a total of 11 extra plants, as appeasement can't be copied. But that's all. Surely there isn't another game with Imitator, right? Oh yeah, you. Heroes adds an additional 15 to the total, because Green Shadow can't be copied, and the same rules for the regular Peashooter and PvZ1 count here too. So where does that overall put the most lenient answer? 88. Wow. Now, that's the most lenient that I'll go, but what do you guys think? Do you agree with any of these answers? Do you not? Well, let me know in the comments down below. I could have absolutely skipped a clone by complete accident, so let me know if I messed up here. And while you're down there, maybe you can subscribe to the channel too. If you do, it helps me out a ton, and your support allows me to continue doing this interesting type of content. Oh, and I didn't mention it anywhere else in this video, but this is actually my thanks to you guys for 5,000 subscribers. I know it's a bit weird, but hopefully this is pleasing to you. As for me, I'm gonna watch my tongue because I've said P more today than I ever have in my life. So I'm gonna see you guys in my next video. Peace.